Priscio has been studying a duet from the opera Radamisto by Handel, Se teco vivi il cor. It's sung by Radamisto and his wife Zenobia, who were separated in the midst of war and are now reunited, declaring their love for one another. One of the challenges for choral musicians is finding a way to successfully convey the meaning of a text. And due to our current circumstances, we can certainly all appreciate the joy of being reunited with a loved one. This opera was written in 1720, and it was a convention of the Baroque era to use embellishment, musical flourishes to add expressiveness, particularly when the music repeated, and you'll hear a hint of this in the recording. We use this as a hindsight analogy, reflecting on the question, if we could go back and do it again, what would we do differently? Se teco vivi il cor by Handel.
Britain was singing a lot of cool music when the pandemic came on, including Voi che sapete, Mozart's famous aria for that awesome bad boy Cherubino from Marriage of Figaro. But one of the pieces I was most looking forward to doing with them for a number of years now was Pergolesi's famous Stabat Mater from 1736, partly because of the sheer beauty of sound and maturity of sound that Britain had this year. And that's what this piece demands. Before Britain knew anything about this piece, I played it for them and they described it as epic, tragic, and possibly about the death of an important person. And it is indeed all of those things. It's about Mary, the mother of Jesus, watching her son as she stands at the foot of the cross. The Latin text is Stabat Mater Dolorosa Juxta crucem lacrimosa dum pendebat filius. The grieving mother stood weeping beside the cross where her son was hanging. Now, this piece, the string parts, which we intended to do, are very intense and mysterious and full of grief, but it's the two vocal parts that are relentless in their dissonances. And we practiced them over and over and over, one voice part pressing down upon the other in a bitter suspension, and then resolving, and then starting over again with another painful dissonance. This is very intense music, and thank you, Britain, for your intensity and the maturity that.
Les Berceaux is the very first piece that Cantilena listened to and really explored this year. As we talked about the idea of hindsight, we've realized that hindsight isn't just like one way of seeing something. There's not one truth that you figure out when you use hindsight, but that hindsight really depends upon somebody's perspective. And we looked at two pieces of music that had really two very different perspectives. One, Castaway, that talks about going forward into this new, exciting time of your life. And then Les Berceaux, which also talks about going forward into this new, exciting time of your life, except for from the perspective of the parents that are perhaps missing the young person that's going forward. Or more generally, it's the perspective of the person who is missing the person who is leaving. Along the quay, the great ships, listing silently with the surge, pay no heed to the cradles rocked by women's hands. But the day of parting will come, for it is decreed that women shall weep, and that men with questing spirits shall seek enticing horizons. And on that day, the great ships, leaving the dwindling harbor behind, shall feel their hulls held back by the soul of distant cradles. In Cantilena, we really enjoyed the way that the rocking piano part serves both as the cradle and as the waves that propel us forward.
probably the most ridiculous piece on this weekend's concert would have been Holst's Je ne mange point de porc, which is a French chanson from about 1550 by Claudin Sermizy. The text goes something like this, and fasten your seatbelts for inappropriateness. I do not eat pork at all. The pig has habits of which I will now speak. If he eats 100 turds, he just laughs. He turns them over, he flips them, he plays with them, he laughs at them, and then he bites into them. I do not eat pork at all. One time I saw a pig playing alongside the river. He saw a turd floating in there, and he grabbed it in order to relish it. And he said to it, "Turd floating in the river, surrender or you're dead." I do not eat pork at all. Now, we tend to think that sarcasm and clever quips are from our time, but hindsight and history teach us that for centuries now, art has been created, whether serious or humorous, to make a point. And Margaret and I are really sorry, Holst, that we never got a chance to have our final discussion about what is the point of this ridiculous 16th century chanson. But it seems to be something like this. Think twice about what you take in. Think about where it's been, whether that be food or gossip or conspiracy theories. Watch what you eat. Je ne mange point de porc, je ne mange point de porc. La condition est que je vous verrai, je vous vois évidemment, je sens